I'm going to go ahead and show you how to construct an index in SPSS. I'm going to be using the National Election Studies 2024 pilot survey. Um, Naturally, this works the same in any data set as long as you have variables that are all coded the same way and coded in the same direction um, relative to the concept that you are trying to measure. So to give you an example, I have three variables here that are all feeling thermometers about different hate groups. So I went ahead and corrected the missing values that were not labeled as missing by default in the data set. And the rest of these are all coded the same. These are all feeling thermometers that ask people to rate their feeling towards a specific group, with 1 being the worst possible feeling and 100 being the best possible feelings. And so there's a whole litany of different groups here in this data set. But there are 3 in particular that I think are logically interrelated. There's a feeling thermometer towards fascists, towards the Ku Klux Klan, and towards neo-Nazis. Now, remember, a index is when you create a variable that is a composite variable of other component variables that are logically measuring a common concept. And so as much as these are all asking about 3 different groups, I theoretically have pretty good reason to believe that there's a commonality here, and that is that they are all hate groups. And so that being the case, I want to test to see if these variables are interrelated with one another, if they appear to be measuring a common concept. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and start by going to Analyze, Scale, and Reliability Analysis to get a Cronbach alpha score. Now, a Cronbach alpha score is a score that ranges from 0 to 1 that tells you how well variables fit together in measuring a common concept. And so that being the case, 0.60 is our threshold for acceptable. For measuring a common concept. You can kind of think of it as a letter grade. 0.60 is acceptable, 0.70 is better, 0.80 is even better, 0.90 is even better, 1.0 would be ideal, but that is basically impossible because nothing covaries almost perfectly that to that degree. And so that said, anything over 0.60 pretty reliably indicates that they're getting at it. The component variables you are looking at are getting at a common concept, and as such could be put together within an index. So once you have everything coded and missing variables fixed, you just pull over all of the variables that you want to test the reliability for and get a Cronbach alpha score for. So I have the group thermometer for fascists, for the Klan, and for neo-Nazis. So I'm going to go ahead and press OK. All the defaults are good as is. And this is what you get. The important thing here is that Cronbach alpha score. We have a Cronbach alpha score between these 3 variables of 0.861, which is a very good Cronbach alpha score, showing that these are generally interrelated. People who have sympathy towards one of these groups tend to have sympathies towards all of these groups. Similarly, people who don't like one of these groups tend to not like all of these groups, which makes sense because, as I said, there's theoretical reason to believe that these have the commonality that they are all hate groups. So that said, I feel comfortable in making these a composite variable. So I'm going to create a new index variable that is a composite of these 3 variables, and I'm going to call this hate therm, which is the feeling thermometer towards hate groups. To do this, you just basically do simple elementary school math. You can either add them all up or you can average them. If you add them all up, you're going to have a really wide potential range of scores. If you average them, it's going to give you a more narrow range of scores, and I think that's probably best for our purposes. I want to keep our feeling thermometer range of scores between the 1 and 100 that it typically is. So first you need to find your variables. They are all right here. So I'm going to do group fascist, group KKK, well, plus group KKK, plus the group thermometer for neo-Nazis. I'm going to put them in brackets here and add them all up. And then I'm going to divide them by the number of variables that I have, which is 3, which is going to give me an average. And so once that's set up, you quite simply have to press OK. Your new variable is going to be, as always, at the very bottom of the data set here. Heat therm. You'd want to give it a label. I don't have to label any values because this is a continuous variable, but I would call this group therm for hate groups. And then if you want to look at a histogram of your newly created variable, you just go to graphs and then histogram, move your new variable over into the variable dialog box. And this is the result. You can see it ranges between 1 and 100. And fortunately for the social fabric of the United States, the mean is incredibly low. The mean is about 13 out of 100, with the vast majority of our cases clustering or on the low end of our scale. And so, yeah, this is the average score between the 3 categories of the 3 variables of the Ku Klux Klan, neo-Nazis, and fascists. And so, combining them all, we get this composite measure, or this index, that looks at people's sympathy towards hate groups generally.